I watched 5 disturbing movies, and I'm going to tell you my spoiler-free thoughts on each of the films. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, but I think it's a good time to do another one. The films will be ranked from what I like the least to the most, except for the first film I mentioned. That one isn't really part of the ranking. After that ranking, I'll rank them from what I thought was the least disturbing to the most disturbing. I also did a bit of research on one of the films, more particularly Funny Games, so I could better understand that movie. I'll leave the articles I read in the description. I watched the films in this order: Soft and Quiet, All About Lily Chocho, Funny Games, American History X, and Mean Creek. The first film I want to talk about, which I did not rank, so this isn't the worst film or anything like that, but that film is All About Lily Chocho. The story charts the troubled teenage years of students Yuchi Hasumi and Shusuke Hoshino, exploring the shifting and complex power dynamics of their relationship against the backdrop of Yuchi's love for the dreamy and abstract music of pop star Lily Chocho. So I watched this film for this video, but I had a really hard time telling a lot of the characters apart. I really struggled to understand what was going on, so I don't think it's fair for me to review. I just wanted to mention I watched this film for this video because the film is pretty long. I watched it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I watched it for this video, so I'm going to at least mention that I watched it for this video. So with that, let's get into the real ranking. In last place, I put Funny Games. This is the original film, not the American remake, though I do plan on watching the remake eventually for a disturbing movie video.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Two psychotic young men take a mother, father, and son hostage in their vacation cabin and force them to play sadistic games with one another for their own amusement. I respect this film, but I just did not like it. In fact, I don't know if it was just me, but I found this film intensely boring, so much so I was really struggling to stay focused. But starting with more of the positives, the emotional performances are done really well. There was a scene that involved eggs that was pretty stressful, and I like that particular scene. I appreciate how this film is meant to provoke conversation on the violence that we view in the media and our perspective on how that violence is being used in that film, and how we are more likely to permit the violence when it is directed at someone evil instead of someone who isn't. And I think it's interesting how we, the audience, are the true victims or targets when watching this film. It's meant to taunt us as viewers, but I'm not sure how effective it was for me. This is a very unique film. It does things you definitely won't expect. It's not a film that's made for you to enjoy. It's supposed to admit discomfort. That being said, I just personally wasn't very disturbed by this film, and I don't know what's wrong with me. But to be honest, I'm rarely disturbed by films that are known for being disturbing, and I'm not trying to sound like some edgy teenager. I'm just being 100% honest. Maybe it's because I'm desensitized, maybe it's because it's not pitch black when I'm watching the film, maybe it's something else, but it's rare for a film to really disturb me. And to be 100% honest, it's frustrating because I want to be disturbed, like I really do, but this film just didn't do it for me. My biggest problem with this film, and this might just be me, but I found this film really boring. I was really struggling to focus on this film. There's an uncut scene that's about 9 to 10 minutes long, and I think that's really impressive. Props to the actors, but it was way too boring for me. And by the end of the film, I was really just glad it was over. See, I really struggled to focus on this film, and if you really want me to get something out of a film, I think it's important to make the story interesting enough to have me focusing on the story instead of me just kind of waiting for the film to end. I would really recommend the articles I put in the description, as they get a bit more in-depth about the meaning of the film, and of course, these are my interpretations, not full-on facts. In third place, I put Soft and Quiet. An elementary school teacher organizes a mix of like-minded women where an encounter with someone from her past spirals into volatile chains of events. This is probably one of the hardest films to talk about, so give me a little grace if I say something stupid. I think this film is an interesting look into hate violence and racism and the consequences of racial violence. It's interesting to see the women in this film trying to justify their evil actions and to see how each person reacts to the situation. It's really interesting how they are shown. If you saw one of the characters walking down the street, you probably wouldn't suspect a thing about their harmful beliefs. I also thought it was pretty interesting having this film presented as one continuous take. This does affect the pacing a bit, and I could see the film being boring for some people, but to be honest, most of the film I found quite interesting. I do think it's important to mention the characters are also purposely pretty awful. They're not very good people, so go into this film knowing you're going to have to listen to these people for an hour and 30 minutes. I also don't think everyone's going to be satisfied by the way this film ends, and I can't really say much else without getting into spoilers, so I'll just leave it at that. This film is also very dialogue heavy. A big chunk of this film is just watching a group of people talking, so go into the film knowing that. I also found the camera to be a bit too shaky for me, and it was kind of a bit irritating for me when watching the film. This is a film that is known for being disturbing, but to be honest, it didn't get me that disturbed. I will say if you have like a history of racial violence towards you or anything like that, it could be a difficult watch. I will say there is an upcoming film in this video that I think its commentary on racial violence was done better. In second place, though I would say it's more tied with Soft and Quiet, I put Mean Creek.
You always gotta go with the best idea you've got. Otherwise, you're just left laying around not knowing what to do.
When a teen is bullied, his brother and friends lure the bully into the woods to seek revenge. This film is definitely one of the harder watches for me. The actor for Georgie, the bully, who was played by Josh Peck, did a really good job. You can really see Georgie wanting to fit in while also making some poor choices. He makes, bad decisions sometimes, but that doesn't mean he's a bad kid. It's interesting to see how each of the different kids reacts to Georgie and the actions that Georgie takes. While some are more sympathetic to him, others, or particularly one character, is definitely not as sympathetic. Though I would even say that character isn't necessarily a bad kid, just a kid who sometimes makes bad, idiotic decisions when his feelings blind his actions. This film really touched me. It made me look at some people through a new perspective. Everyone knows the kid who seems to pick on everyone, but we as outsiders really just can't understand what is going on in that kid's head. I think it's important to stand up to bullying and inappropriate behavior, but in the end, an eye for an eye still makes the whole world blind. I will say, and to be sure, I'm not fully why, but I have an idea. I didn't find myself as invested during the last 40-ish minutes of the film. I would highly recommend watching this film, but big trigger warning, there are some scenes that are truly difficult to watch. In first place, I put what I consider a masterpiece that is American History X.
I love you and you're my best friend. And I'm not telling you what to do, but I need you to understand.
A neo-Nazi is released from prison as a changed man and hopes to prevent his younger brother from following in his footsteps. I'm really glad I watched this film, and it has got to be one of my favorite films that I've ever seen. It's definitely not the easiest watch, but I think it's an important film that you should watch at least once. The performances in this film were really good, the acting was good, and I really liked Edward Norton's performance especially. I think he did a good job showing his character before and after he changed his ways. The characters are done very well, especially the redemption arc of Derek. I really like that. The commentary in this film is really important. It shows the danger of hatred and the effect you have on others, especially younger siblings and other people who look up to you. It also shows the consequences of said hate. I found it interesting to see how Derek's younger brother Danny looks up to Derek, the way he wants to be like his brother. I think it's pretty realistic. The film definitely has some disturbing moments, but not a ton of them got to me. But what really got to me was the broken family dynamic. Luckily, I don't have that problem. My family is really close. It's not really an issue for me. I just specifically felt bad for the younger daughter in this film and for the living situation she's in. Again, this is another film where if you've been in a situation that involves racial violence, you might really find it difficult to watch. Okay, I'm now going to rank the films from what I thought was the least disturbing to me to the most. I won't lie though, I could see myself changing these around a bit in the future since it's really difficult for me to rank them. In fifth place, I put Funny Games. In fourth place, I put All About Lily Cho. In third place, I put Soft and Quiet. In second place, I put American History X. And in first place, I put Mean Creek. So those are my thoughts. Have you seen any of these films? If you have, what films, and what were your thoughts on those films? If you have any film recommendations, especially good disturbing films, please leave them down in the comments. So with all that said, I hope you have a good rest of your day or night or whenever you're watching this. And with that, bye.